Hello, I'm Louise Jordan. I'm a songwriter. Growing up in Salisbury, I was often fond of visiting its parks and green spaces. And when I was at school, I learnt the song Sally Gardens. And when I sing it, it reminds me of the Queen Elizabeth Gardens in Salisbury, round the corner from where I grew up. A sally is a word for a willow tree. And the song is a setting of a poem by the Irish poet W.B. Yeats to a traditional melody. My version of the story ends happily because I've added an extra verse to the song. Down by the Sally Gardens, my love and I did meet. We passed the Sally Gardens with little snow-white feet. I bid him take life easy as the leaves fall from the tree. But we were young and foolish, and on that we could not agree. In a field down near the river, my love and I did stand, and on his leaning shoulder I placed my snow-white hand. I bid him take love easy as the grass grows on the weirs. But we were young and foolish, and once more filled with tears. In a field down near the river, my love and I lay down, and on his heaving shoulder my hair it came gently down. I bid him take love easy as the leaves fall from the trees. But we were young and foolish, and on that we could not agree. Down by the Sally Gardens, my love and I will meet. We'll pass the Sally Gardens, no longer our snow-white feet. And though life will not prove easy, sure the leaves will fall from the tree. Though once we were young and foolish, now in love we're free. Yes, once we were young and foolish, but now in love we're free. I'd now like to tell you the story of Dorothy Lawrence. Dorothy was a young woman who wouldn't take no for an answer. She was an aspiring author, and when the First World War broke out, Dorothy saw that as an opportunity to prove her talents, and she wanted to go and be a war correspondent on the front line. Unfortunately for Dorothy, she was too young, inexperienced, and she was female. So there was no editor of any national paper that would allow Dorothy to work for them. So Dorothy decided that she would take £2 of her savings out, and she bought a bicycle and she travelled on a ferry to France. This song is called Freewheeling, and it's the story of Dorothy's adventures as she cycled through the countryside of France to reach the front line. Dorothy's guardian lived in Salisbury Cathedral Close, and I sometimes wonder whether Dorothy was one of the many people who would walk through the close and gaze at the spire. When Dorothy reached near to the front line, she realised that she was going to have to go in disguise if she was going to get to do what she wanted to do and take some notes and write about what was going on the Western Front. So Dorothy decided that she would dress up as a man. She borrowed some uniform, which some helpful soldiers managed to help her to acquire, and she cut her hair short. And she padded out the uniform to make herself look less like a curvy young woman and more like a young man who was straight up and down, let's say. And Dorothy managed to serve some days on the front line, which is incredible when you think about it. One other thing that Dorothy did was that she roughed up the skin on her cheeks by rubbing an abrasive material into it so that she looked young, as if she was a soldier with a shaving rash. So she was very committed to her cause. So this song is called Freewheeling. Uncorseted and clad in khaki, bound and bandaged on your journey, risking reputation on the way. A feminine, unruly spirit, defiant, fearless, cocky with it, out to prove what an ordinary girl can do. You proved what Dorothy Lawrence could do. Freewheeling, freewheeling. With red and razored face you travelled, your hair cut short, suspicion followed. Could you be a camp follower or a spy? 400 yards from the German front line, your loyal hand-picked army close by. Alone in the world, 2 and 6pence to your name. You proved what Dorothy Lawrence could do. Freewheeling, freewheeling. Outspoken, honest, patriotic, betrayed and hidden in a convent. You broke their mould and beat their system. 10 days and 10 nights under fire at the Western Front as you'd aspired, while the women of Britain say, go. There you go. Freewheeling, freewheeling. You chose your path, cut a lonely figure, dismissed as a nuisance, too young to be a nurse or a VAD, in search of truth and wanting to serve your country. Freewheeling, in a long green coat, asleep in corn stacks, haughty, headstrong, single-minded, moving among ruins and cabbage patches. A spirit of sport and a hunger for adventure, you sacrificed your story for a promise. It left you alone and facing poverty. You proved what Dorothy Lawrence could do. Freewheeling, I was surprised to find out that Florence Nightingale had links to Salisbury, and in particular to Salisbury Hospital. As a young woman, Florence lived with her family at Embley Park near Romsey, and she had wanted to train at Salisbury Infirmary to be a nurse. Florence is perhaps best known for her work during the Crimean War, and it was Sidney Herbert who gave Florence orders to take a team of nurses. Letters between Florence Nightingale and Sidney Herbert, whose home is Wilton House. They're all deposited at Wiltshire and Swindon History Centre. Later in Florence's life, she wrote letters to members of staff at Salisbury Infirmary, including her cousin Edith Joanna Bonham Carter. And these letters are held at Salisbury District Hospital's archives, courtesy of ArtCare. I wrote a number of songs about Florence Nightingale's life and about aspects of her work which are often overlooked. This song is called Florrie's Lorry, and it's written from the perspective of a soldier of the Crimean War, talking about the many things that Florence Nightingale did, in addition to nursing. Florence travelled in a Russian carriage during the Crimean War, and the carriage was nicknamed Florrie's Lorry, and it became famous when it was brought back to Britain after the war. The media may call her the lady with the lamp, but she's Florrie in her lorry to us soldiers in the camp. They like to talk of nurses so the public might forget fewer soldiers died from battle than from the government's neglect. Here she comes, it's Florrie in her lorry, always so much work to do, always in a hurry. Here she comes, it's Florrie in her lorry, she's chasing up the government, the army, the establishment. She's met the Queen and toured the world, she's even had a word with him above. It's Florrie in her lorry. When we got to the Crimea, there wasn't much to do, except for drinking, gambling till our wages we'd been through. Florrie to the rescue, bought us paper, books and pens, set up a postal service to send our wages home to friends. The media may call her the lady with the lamp, but she's Florrie in her lorry to us soldiers in the camp. They like to talk of nurses so the public might forget fewer soldiers died from battle than from the government's neglect. The soldier who is injured hoping for recovery must thank his female saviour that he's free from dysentery. For Florrie has organised clean provisions and supplies, bringing sanitation, cleanliness and ventilation. The media may call her the lady with the lamp, but she's Florrie in her lorry to us soldiers in the camp. They like to talk of nurses so the public might forget fewer soldiers died from battle than from the government's neglect. If you're out of food and need supplies, Florrie can help you. Need a kitchen or a window, it's Florrie you can talk to. For Florrie is in charge of stores, calls the shots and makes the plans. For all your wartime needs, call the lady with the van. The media may call her the lady with the lamp, but she's Florrie in her lorry to our soldiers in the camp. They like to talk of nurses so the public might forget fewer soldiers died from battle than from the government's neglect. Here she comes, it's Florrie in her lorry, always so much work to do, always in a hurry. Here she comes, it's Florrie in her lorry, she's chasing up the government, the army, the establishment. She's met the Queen and toured the world, she's even had a word with him above. It's Florrie in her lorry. I wrote this final song after reading the autobiography of a woman called Hannah Mitchell. The song draws on Hannah Mitchell's own words and her experiences of life. Hannah was a working-class suffragette, and she was extraordinary in many ways. She grew up in rural poverty on a farm in the Derbyshire Peak District and left home at the age of 14 in order to escape the life of domestic drudgery that awaited her. Hannah worked in sweated labour in factories across Lancashire. She was inspired by the labour movement to speak in public against the exploitation of people living in poverty. She became married, she had a son, and she took in a niece to look after. She also took in lodgers and did some needlework at home in order to help the family's financial situation. But she still, despite all of this, managed to travel across the UK to speak in favour of women having the vote. She went on to become a poor law guardian, a Manchester City councillor, and finally a magistrate, a position that she held for 21 years. For me, life has been an adventure, and as I near the end, I look back at what it's taught me and set it down with paper and pen. I'm just one very ordinary woman, and there are many more women like me. What's happened to their voices? What's happened to their stories? We can't help what we were born with, but we can choose what we leave behind. We leave our mark, however faint, on the sands of time. We leave our mark, however faint, on the sands of time. Mine may not be a very thrilling story, and when I go, I leave no grand legacy. But when you walk past my little wash house, I hope you'll think of me. We can't all lead the revolution, but we can all change what is in our power. We can lend a hand to our neighbours, we can serve our fellow man. We can't help what we were born with, but we can choose what we leave behind. We leave our mark, however faint, on the sands of time. We leave our mark, however faint, on the sands of time. Every woman has a right to be equal, to realise her own soul, to be free from the tyranny of the cooking stove, to live with purpose and self-control. We can all join the fight for fairness, though we may fail, at least we know we've tried. We must teach ourselves and reach up for the castles in the sky. We can't help what we were born with, but we can choose what we leave behind. We leave our mark, however faint, on the sands of time. We leave our mark, however faint, on the sands of time.